Welcome back to Reflect Politics. My name is Brendan Plank. Jim McGovern just issued quite the takedown of Republicans and the insane amounts of corruption inside that party, especially under the Trump administration. Jim McGovern focused on four key parts here. Number one, Pete Hegseth wanting to paint his government housing and billing the government $50,000 to do so. Number two, Republican congressional voter fraud inside the House of Representatives. Number three, Republicans not doing a damn thing to lower prices for everyday Americans at the grocery store and at the pump. And number four, Donald Trump being the no new wars president, and now he wants to go in and take Gaza.
Mr. Speaker, I really understand why my Republican colleagues don't want to talk about what's going on in this country. I really do get it. They want to change the subject. And if I were them, I wouldn't want to talk about their lousy and unpopular agenda either. Nor would I want to talk about the fact that they're robbing these incredibly effective programs that help the American people to basically pay for a tax cut that's going to end up resulting in a multi-trillion-dollar debt. They don't want to talk about that, and I get that. I get that. But they want to eliminate programs to help working families in this country. They are defying court orders to choke off money for, get this, cancer research. For cancer research. They are trying to choke off money for consumer protection. And I just came from an agriculture committee hearing. They're trying to choke off money for our farmers, for rural America. For rural America. And they go on and on and on about waste, fraud, and abuse. But they don't want to talk about how their MAGA buddy, Pete Hegseth, Trump's Secretary of Defense, wants to dip into taxpayer money like it's its own personal slush fund. No, they don't want to go there, do they? This guy, and again, you can't make this up, but this guy wants to spend $50,000 on an emergency paint job for his government housing. $50,000 for an emergency paint job for his government housing. $50,000. This is an emergency. I wouldn't want to talk about that either if I were them. I mean, I can only, I wouldn't want to talk about that either if I were them, Mr. Speaker, but I have two words for Pete Hegseth. Home Depot. And I can narrow it down to one word, Lowe's. You get paint at a much cheaper rate than $50,000 to repaint your government housing. It's ridiculous. And that's perfectly fine with my Republican friends, perfectly fine. I mean, I can only assume that it's luxury paint for that price tag. Maybe my colleagues can correct me. And meanwhile, they have the gall to come down here and lecture us about government efficiency and waste. I mean, it takes my breath away. Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to insert into the record an article from military.com entitled, Hegseth wants $50,000 for emergency paint job to move into military family housing, lawmakers say.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, this is the kind of corruption and waste and fraud that people deserve to know about. The kind that Republicans want to keep hidden from the American people during our debate today. Well, guess what? I want to expose it. And Democrats are demanding answers because we think everyone deserves to know why this administration wants to spend $50 grand on paint for their fancy new houses, while many of our troops live in housing with black mold and lead paint and can't pay the bills or make ends meet. That ought to be the priority, not a $50,000 paint job for the new Secretary of Defense. It's the same scam every single time. They do not care about efficiency or cost. They care about themselves. This is about tax breaks for billionaires, giveaways for their friends, and making sure the rich and powerful never have to sacrifice a damn thing. These people don't buy their own groceries or pump their own gas. These are Fox News Nepo babies that are fine with government waste as long as they're the ones doing it. And I'm just so tired of this, Mr. Speaker. They are stealing from the American people. They do not care. They want to spend taxpayer money on luxury paint jobs for their fancy new houses while they screw over the rest of us. And Democrats are not going to put up with this BS. This administration is corrupt, and we will call it out over and over and over and over again. So this is really interesting now, because last week, Congressman Byron Donalds was at HBO studios in California not on the House floor. But somehow news reports say he also voted here on the House floor at the same time. And this is so interesting, Mr. Speaker, because I have a tweet here from 2 years ago when Representative Donald says, and I quote, "Today, House Republicans will vote to end proxy voting once and for all. The House of Representatives isn't a tech company. Its members should work in person in the people's house," end quote. Yet he voted by proxy, and after he voted to end proxy voting. And this is the kind of hypocrisy that appears to be a specialty with my Republican colleagues. And again, Mr. Speaker, let me ask if I can make a further parliamentary inquiry.
Status parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, let's say a member of Congress has a baby. Let's say they're undergoing treatment for chemotherapy. Let's say a close family member dies. Is there a provision in the rules for them to vote remotely?
Provide advisory opinions or respond to hypothetical questions.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this is not hypothetical, and I kind of get what's going on here. But we have a colleague, Representative Pedersen, who is currently home because she just gave birth. She can't vote because this majority has refused to put in place a bipartisan tool to allow it. Meanwhile, Republicans are out here breaking the rules while they jet off to Hollywood. So clearly the rules apply and are held so sacrosanct by the majority that they can't be changed for new moms, but somehow they can be changed for interviews in Los Angeles. So, let it apply to thee and not me. Mr. Speaker, further inquiry: were Representative Donald's votes recorded as if he cast them properly, or has his absence been recorded?
The chair would direct the gentleman to Clause 2 of Rule 3.
So if I understand that correctly, they were recorded, even though he wasn't here in person.
The gentleman is free to consult the records of the House.
Okay. I have, and his vote was recorded even though he wasn't here. So let's just call this what it is. It's voter fraud under the rules that the Republicans have put into place. Let's not even get started about who used Donald's card to vote for him. They are fraudulently casting votes on the House floor to make sure they win every time, whether or not they have enough members here. But apparently the voter fraud is okay if they do it. This is unbelievable. Mr. Speaker, we have covered an awful lot today. We discussed how Trump, Elon, and their Doge minions are trying to take down the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, an agency that has delivered more than $20 billion, that's $20 billion with a B, dollars back to consumers because Elon doesn't want his business to be regulated. We talked about how former Fox News personality turned Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth wants to spend $50,000 in taxpayer money on a high-end house paint job, all while Republicans cry about government waste. We exposed how some Republicans are committing the equivalent of voter fraud in the United States Congress, and yet they still refuse to let new parents be able to vote remotely. I have a name for all of it, Mr. Speaker: corruption. Rule for thee, but not for me. Hypocrisy. And Mr. Speaker, is there a single thing any of them, Trump, Elon, or any of the people on the other side have done or are doing to help regular people? A single thing. A single thing. They promised they'd lower grocery prices. Egg prices are through the roof. They promised $1 a gallon gas. Gas prices are going up since Trump took office. Oh, and don't forget, they promised to end wars. Trump's now talking about sending U.S. troops to Gaza so that Jared Kushner can build a Middle East Mar-a-Lago. I mean, did people really vote to send their sons and daughters to be deployed in the tunnels of Gaza? You know, they promised America first, and they want to put tariffs on Canada and Mexico that Americans would have to pay for. And they backed down when the market started failing and they got nothing to show for it. Not a single thing done for the American people, just broken promises after broken promises after broken promises. Republicans have a 3-vote majority. They do not have a mandate. They need to work with Democrats to get anything done, anything of consequence, that is. But instead, they're too busy handing out favors to billionaires and putting themselves first, all at the expense of the very people who sent them here. You know, they want a government that only serves the ultra-rich. We want a government that puts people first. You know, I came to Congress to help people, not to hurt people. And you're not helping people when you're dismantling important agencies and bureaus that actually are there to protect the health and well-being of the American people. You're not helping the American people when you try to cut money from NIH to do cancer research. You know, you're not helping people when you try to gut consumer protection organizations that are all about making sure that big corporations don't trample over regular people and take away their rights or overcharge them. You know, I for the life of me, I don't understand the silence on the other side of the aisle. You know, we've been, you know, in Congress now. There's new Congress for about over a month now, and again, nothing being brought to the floor to help improve the quality of life for regular people. Not a thing. Not a thing. I don't know how my friends go home and face their constituents and they say, "What did you do this week?" We did nothing. Nothing for you. We did a lot of body blocking to help people like Elon Musk and other very well-off and well-placed people enrich themselves, but we did nothing for you, the American people. That's not what we should be focused on. And the underlying bill that this rule is about here today is just another in a string of legislation, pieces of legislation that are being brought to the floor that are about trying to pull a fast one here. You know, to basically, you know, repeal all these consumer protections, all these things that are designed to help the American people all at once so that nobody knows what's in them. They can bring a bill with 1,000, that repeals 1,000 regulations all at once, and we have no debate. That is not the way this place is supposed to work. So I urge my colleagues to vote no on this rule, vote no on the underlying legislation, and I urge my colleagues on the Republican side to start putting the people of this country first. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
It doesn't get much better than McGovern's blistering takedown of the entire Republican Party. We all knew that Pete Hegseth wasn't up for the job, and now he wants to use taxpayer dollars to repaint his housing. And this comes from the party who claims to be the party of fiscal responsibility. Just a complete joke, complete hypocrisy from them. And then also this party is all about voter integrity, yet they are allowing Representative Donalds to vote from LA, but not letting a Democratic representative vote from home after she gave birth. Republicans also pretended to be like the party who can lower costs for everyday Americans, and they're going to lower gas prices and lower the prices of eggs, and yet they've done nothing to do that, which is why eggs continue to soar, prices at the pump continue to go up. And then, of course, Donald Trump being the president who's going to bring the world together and bring peace to the Middle East, now talking about going in and taking Gaza. I mean, it's just insanity. It's corruption, like McGovern said there. So let me know what your thoughts are on McGovern's speech. Share your reflections down in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to Reflect Politics so that you get my future videos about all things politics delivered straight to you. Thanks again for watching. My name is Brendan Plank. See you in the next video.